Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zack, and for the last week I've been driving the 2025 Jeep Gladiator High Tide. Up front is a 3.6 liter V6, and down below is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be making this video here today because I've spent the last week driving the Gladiator High Tide. It's finished in a lovely shade of orange, and I've actually had this the week before Halloween, so it has been exciting to celebrate the holiday in Jeep fashion. But the second reason is the fact that High Tide is a relatively new trim level. It debuted last year, but was only available in Florida. Now it is available nationwide. And so we'll get into the nitty-gritty here today in the Jeep Gladiator High Tide. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that 3.6 liter V6. It has been in the Gladiator since day one, pretty much unchanged. I'm always a little bit shocked at how quick the Gladiator is, even with its V6. It's always a little bit peppier than I remember, which is a nice and welcome treat. Like I said, paired to it is an 8-speed automatic transmission, and for the 2025 model year, that is now the only transmission for the Gladiator. They are no longer offering the manual transmission for the Gladiator. I believe you could still get it in the Wrangler, but for the truck, no more. The 8-speed's fine, it does the job, and I don't have any complaints. Last but not least, about the drivetrain, of course, the Gladiator is 4-wheel drive, and we'll talk about how to select it a little bit later on. How does it feel to drive the Jeep Gladiator? I've never been a fan, either with the Wrangler and now, of course, the Gladiator. I've driven several Gladiators. I've never been impressed by it. Here's the thing. You have to keep in mind that this is a military-derived vehicle. I know way back in its heritage, but at one point, that's kind of what this is. This is a rough and tumble truck that is meant to do heavy-duty truck things, and so it kind of wanders on the highway. The steering isn't great. You have a high center of gravity, so you can't really take corners at any type of speed. The suspension is rather harsh. It is closer related to a tractor than an actual automobile. However, Jeep owners know that. I just need to say it for someone who might be thinking of switching to a Jeep from, say, a unibody SUV. It is going to be a pretty stark difference. That being said, visibility is good. I don't mind driving it. It just is a little bit rougher around the edges than some of the competition, but the Ford Bronco is found in the same space. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 2 physical gauges and a screen. Off to the left is my physical tachometer, off to the right is my physical speedometer, but then we get that digital gauge in the center that we can switch around and play with. I love the graphics on here. I think it works really well, gives you good information. That's all I really want out of a Jeep product like this. On the steering wheel on the left, we do have our selectors for the gauge cluster screen as well as our phone options, and off to the right we have our adaptive cruise control, which is very nice. Off to the left we have a climate control vent, we have our headlight switch, gauge dimmer switch, as well as our 115 volt AC cargo outlet on and off. Love to see this option. And moving out of the door, we do have our power mirrors and our power locks. Moving into the center, we get our large infotainment display. This does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It was updated several years ago, so it's not new for 25, but relatively new in terms of the Gladiator as a whole, and I like it. It does the job. Here is the backup camera, in case you were curious. Down below, we have 2 climate control vents, and then we have all of our climate controls. They are physical climate controls. Love to see that here in 2025. We get dual zone climate. We also get heated seats, which is lovely. We'll talk about why with the trim level towards the end. But as automatic start stop on and off, traction control, parking sensors, hill descent control, all the goodies there. And then down below we have even more buttons for the 12 volt outlet, our 4 window switches, aux input, USB-C and USB-A, and we have 4 auxiliary switches. These can be wired in for additional lights, a winch. I've seen it work as an air compressor, a train horn. All of those things can just be wired to these factory switches so it looks nice in the cabin. Moving on to the center console, we have our 4-wheel drive settings off to the left, so 2 high, 4 high, neutral, and 4 low. And off to the right, we have our shifter. I love the fact that it has a little Gladiator up at the top. Then we do have cup holders. We'll do a big friggin' bottle test, and it fails. But to be expected out of the Gladiator, we've tested many before. Then we get our handbrake and the center console. It is dual opening, and you get a USB-A in the larger compartment. The seats are leather. They're not very comfortable. However, they're easily cleanable, which is nice to see in a Gladiator. Again, this is an off-road tool rather than a daily driver mobile. It also is a power seat, which again is pretty new to the Wrangler and Gladiators. So definitely nice to get that power seat option where a lot of lower tier Gladiators still have manual seats. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2025 Jeep Gladiator High Tide, and a couple of things to note. First of all, we do have 2 climate vents. We have our window switches here in the center. We have 2 USB-A and 2 USB-Cs, so 4 USB chargers back here. We have our wall outlet. We have 2 giant cup holders, and we do have a center console with 2 more cup holders. Lots of amenities back here. One really cool feature about the back seats, however, at least here in the High Tide, you pull this strap, and yes, you can lower it and, put the headrest down, and that's fine. But back here, you actually have a removable speaker. So you can take this with you. It is an Alpine speaker, which is very, very neat. And normally it operates as part of the sound system. However, you can remove it, pair your phone, and when you're out at the beach, out at the campsite, boom, you can set this up and have your tunes with you. And it charges on this little dock here in the back. This is a really, really cool feature, and I love to see that. The Toyota 4Runner and Toyota Tacoma have a similar feature. However, it's actually a little bit smaller, and this one I have found to have a little bit better battery life, which is very, very nice. The overall seats are a little bit hard, but I do fit. I'm 5'11", not a small guy, and because this removable section sits pretty high up, I actually have quite a bit of space. Now, my head is right in line with this roll bar, which is nice. So if you are over 6 foot and you have the roof off, you might become the crumple zone. But that's okay. There are now airbags in these sidebars, of which Jeep Wranglers didn't used to have in like the early 2010s. So nice to see that, and we get 2 speakers right in your face. It's a decent spot to be. It's an adventure vehicle, and going on adventures, even in the back seat, is very fun. That sounded dirty. I did not mean it to sound dirty. I meant going out on a trail with 4 friends. Get your mind out of the gutter! Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the bed, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, we're on the back of the 2025 Jeep Gladiator High Tide. We do have a traditional tailgate here. Nothing really too crazy, but we do have this nice tonneau cover, which you can roll up. But when it is down, not only does it look nice, not only does it protect your stuff, but it also gives you better fuel economy. So I would keep this down as much as possible, and this is an option. Not every Gladiator is going to have it. Once we are in here, we have some type of present here. I love that they still use the old Pentastar logo. But anyway, I believe this is a bag for the tonneau cover to go in. Like there's actually a bag in a bag. It's bagception a little bit, but there you go. Anyway, we do have an outlet back here as well. That's what that control module to the left of the steering wheel controls. You can turn that on and off. Really like that. But there you go. You get some LED lights. That's pretty much it. Now, I've always questioned why people would ever buy the truck bed. Why not just get a Wrangler if you want a Wrangler? Well, I was recently told and opened my eyes to the fact this is really great for camping. Not only can you camp in here, but you can get a camper top. I'll show some examples here. You can get a big camper top. Take this off-road, you have all that Jeep ability, but you have your camper with you. And so I do think that that is pretty cool. Pull the tailgate right back up, and there you go. That's the Jeep Gladiator. Now we gotta talk about the looks. And obviously that polarizing juice orange is lovely, and it is the most expensive color you can get on a Gladiator. Every other optional color is $595. Juice, spelled Joose, as a sort of nod to orange juice, is $800. $195 if you would like to option it. So this is the most expensive color you can get on a Gladiator from the factory. However, Stellantis always has some of, if not the best colors in the industry. Brought back for 25 was also Mojito, which is that really interesting green, and Rain, as a reference to Purple Rain by Prince, is a nice shade of purple that I found very interesting, so you can get your Gladiator in very cool colors, and I would say a lot cooler colors than the Bronco. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the Jeep Gladiator for the last week? Well, I do find this trim very interesting. The High Tide originally started out as a special edition only sold in Florida. It came out to celebrate a large Jeep gathering that happens every year in Daytona Beach, Florida. So this was the High Tide, the sort of beachy one. It was only available in Florida, but now it's available nationwide because it is a hit. Why is it a hit? Well, you get a lot of great features for not the largest price tag. I'm not saying 55 grand is cheap, not saying that. But in terms of the Gladiator, it starts around 40, and that's a very, very basic and bare bones truck. In the High Tide, you do get bigger wheels with better tires. You get that nicer off-roady look, and you get some nice features like the heated seats, the power seats, the speaker behind the rear seats, just some basic livability things. And so I like this quite a bit. If you are looking at getting a Gladiator and you don't want to spend the $65,000 for the top trim level, you can save yourself 10 grand and still have a pretty good experience. Now you are going to be lacking the locking differentials, the power detaching sway bars, sure. But for a beach cruiser, something you might own down in Florida, this is a great option. For those 40-degree nights that they get for 3 weeks out of the year, it's gonna have the heated seats, it's gonna have a nice sound system, it's gonna work well, but for the summers, you take the doors and top off, you still have the truck bed, it's going to work for you. And so if you're looking for a Gladiator, honestly, this might be one of my favorite trims. I think you get a fair amount without breaking the entire bank and taking out a second mortgage. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Jeep for letting me borrow their Gladiator for the last week. Huge thank you to G Schmitz for facilitating the cleaning and delivery of this vehicle. And of course, the Midwest Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.